Swifties, this is not a drill. We have only 24 hours until we can download The Life of a Showgirl to the little demonic glass rectangles we only put down when we sleep. I'm speaking to you here today as someone who loves Taylor Swift, as someone who just got shipping confirmation emails for 6 vinyl variants. My toxic spending habits, though, are not the subject of this video. I'm speaking to you here today as someone who loves figuring out why pop songs work the way they do, why certain songs just hit harder than others. Ultimately, what makes great pop great. I'm James, this is Trendy Pop, where a 40-something guy clings to his 90s and noughties playlists while trying to make sense of pop culture today. If that's you too, hit subscribe, give this video a like, and drop your wildest Life of a Showgirl predictions in the comments. Let's start clowning, shall we? The best place to start exploring the life of a showgirl is actually the last line on the standard edition of the Tortured Poets Department. The future's bright, dazzling. At the time, it felt more poignant than prophetic, but we should have known. It's different. The final track on Midnights ended with the lines, "Or have they come to take me away?" And the follow-up, the Tortured Poets Department, opened with the line, "I was meant to be sent away, but they forgot to come and get me. She's evil." The future's bright, dazzling on the song Clara Bow was framed as a line to the ingenue coming up behind her, the one destined to replace her. Supportive, slightly haunted, 18 months later we're booking tickets for the Life of a Showgirl launch party billed as a dazzling soiree. With Taylor Swift, nothing is accidental. The promotional activity from Taylor for this album cycle has been minimal, the primary event being her appearance on the New Heights podcast with Travis and Jason Kelsey. Taylor Nation, however, have been flogging vinyl variants, ugly cardigans, and sweaters in boxes as though the mortgages on Taylor's many houses depended on it. But a couple of days ago, a promo for a Target exclusive pink glittery vinyl appeared, and things got a little bit more interesting. Taylor is dressed in sequins, playing the showgirl, but the body language is telling. Her stance is unmoored, she looks unsure and awkward, and the director is barking over her, dismissive and disrespectful.
What is going on with the posture? It's giving no girl, not showgirl. What are we doing?
Comedy on the surface, but most likely commentary underneath. Less a blunt exploration of how showgirls are treated and more of a subtle wink to the audience. Given that this is a channel about 90s and noughties pop, and I am a gentleman of a certain age, you shouldn't be surprised by what came to mind for me when I watched that promo. Geri Halliwell, better known as Ginger Spice. Ginger was a carefully crafted persona held together with the sheer force of will. Often considered to be the least talented of the group, she really was the driving creative force behind the band. A woman who knew her time was running out and she was desperate for fame. And we all saw how it turned out. No longer able to keep the smile fixed as the pressure of being the showgirl mounted, building to a breaking point, she cracked and fled the band, only to strip back the character that she'd been hiding behind to reveal the person that had been suffocating underneath. The work that she put out after leaving the group mostly explored the glory and the downsides of fame. The chorus of her debut single, Look at Me, tackled this head on. Look at me. You can take it all because this face is free. Maybe next time use your eyes and look at me. I'm a drama queen if that's your thing, baby. I can even do reality. And later, on the not-so-subtle Heaven and Hell being Geri Halliwell, she explored this idea even further. 15 minutes, show me what you're made of. 15 minutes, what are you afraid of? Seen it, done it, want to know the trade-off. It's heaven, it's hell, being Geri Halliwell. On her debut, she's saying, just give me attention and I'll be anything you want me to be. And then on the sophomore record, she's saying, it's hell keeping up with this game of fame. And I think these are themes that we can expect to see explored, perhaps with a little more subtlety, on The Life of a Showgirl. So I don't think this record is all sequins and feathers. I think it's about the toll it takes to wear them. Not the 2 hours on the stage, but the 21 hours off of it. The pressure and the release, the machinery that keeps the spectacle running, and the person who has to carry it all on their back. Non-stop bangers is the phrase that by now has been absolutely drilled into the national psyche, and that was not unintentional.
12 tracks.
12
Bangers. That's a banger.
Bangers.
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 Bangers. 12 bangers.
Hardcore Swifties have devoured every morsel that Taylor has delivered since Folklore, but critics have become increasingly divided, and the casual listener has all but checked out.
Everything sounds the same.
Is the common critique. Even people in my own life dared utter this to me. They're wrong, by the way. But let's face it, the average person just isn't listening to pop, to dissect lyrics and study lore. They just want 3 minutes and 20 seconds of relief from their miserable, pointless lives. Non-stop bangers reads to me like a hand reaching back out to the wider audience and a not-so-subtle message to radio and streaming services to get ready for business. So what exactly does a banger sound like with Max back in Taylor Nation? For me, a banger doesn't necessarily mean a four-to-the-floor club anthem. It just means that the production is tighter, the mix is bright and glossy, but most importantly, with Max Martin, there's a darkness to the chords beneath. It sounds like a horror movie in which a singer is stalked by a disgruntled producer. The chords beneath. The bang in banger
That's a banger.
comes from the clash of these seemingly conflicting elements. Think about Blank Space. It's immaculate in its shimmer, but the harmony has bite. Magic, madness, heaven, sin. There's conflict and contradiction. Style glides along without ever turning stunny. That bass is pure dark driving energy. Delicate breathes and then lifts on a pre-chorus like an exhale. It's full of fear, but sounds hopeful. Ready for It sits on a much darker, aggressive track with tough rap verses, but then we flip into a wistful, softly sung bridge. There's always light contrasting with darkness. So let's head back in time for a second and think about the hits that put Max Martin on the map, and as you'll see, the blueprint holds. Britney's Baby One More Time, written in C minor, aches with longing. My loneliness is killing me. Give me a sign, she sings. NSYNC's Bye 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 in G-sharp minor is an angry kiss-off track. The Backstreet Boys song Everybody Backstreet's Back is in B-flat minor, and it carries a hint of menace, even though it's undeniably built for the dance floor. So Max Martin contrasts darkness with light. The smile lives in the mix, but the frown lives in the minor chords that he loves so much. So we should definitely expect some darkness on this album. We aren't getting, or at least I desperately hope we aren't getting, any kids box like,
Hey kids, spelling is fun!
So there's also the time of year to factor in. Music is irrefutably seasonal. Red is a fall album, autumn leaves falling down like pieces into place. 1989 is a summer album. Lover is a summer album. So cut the headlights, summer's a knife. So there's a little bit of seasonal deja vu that we have to explore because Midnight's landed in late October and The Life of a Showgirl is arriving at that same time. It's the same end of year mood. We're losing light every day. The temperature is dropping. The leaves are beginning to fall from the trees like beads from the gown of a showgirl. Midnight's felt like Taylor trying to make a Max Martin-style pop album without the man himself. There was plenty of darkness to be found. Think Lavender Haze, Maroon, Vigilante shit, but not the level of pop precision you'd expect from a Max Martin production. There was a distinct lack of contradiction and juxtaposition that he brings to his work. Taylor, as we've seen from everything she directs, tends to be decidedly literal in her interpretation. Midnight's nails the sheen, but the bite is near absent. The lyrics are often more stream of consciousness. The melodic rhythms are more organic. If Showgirl keeps that midnight glow and adds Max's sharp edges, we'll be getting the best of both worlds. And to me, that's really exciting. Which brings me to the opening track on The Life of a Showgirl, The Fate of Ophelia. Ophelia is the obedient daughter pulled between duty to her father and her desire for the haughty Prince Hamlet. It immediately echoes But Daddy, I Love Him. The elders convening down at the city hall, commanding Matty Healy to stay away from her. Dutiful daughter, all her plans were made, tendrils tucked into a woven braid. If Ophelia is the bridge from Tortured Poets Department into The Life of a Showgirl, it wouldn't be unreasonable to expect Tortured Poets Department's mood and weight to be reframed through Max Martin's polish and melodic math. Polish up front Discipline in the Seams, which is the sound of keeping the show together. Next up is Elizabeth Taylor, a fantastic title, and I'm hearing a hook that you can chant, slightly bratty, using her name as the punch. Despite her being a star from the age of 10, the tabloids defined Elizabeth Taylor by marriages and men. And despite Taylor's wild success, that same framing stuck to her early on in her career. And though it's certainly a narrative she courted directly, she ultimately was able to outgrow it. And it's interesting that her time working with Max Martin initially was very much focused on her dating life. Jake Gyllenhaal, Harry Styles. It could be that these songs were sparked from conversations between Max and Taylor, catching up and discussing how her career and approach to her art has changed, which would be a really interesting angle to come at creating an album from. Circling back through the lens of Elizabeth Taylor could mean that she's ready to play with that history on her own terms. There's actually a song on Kelly Clarkson's brilliant album Chemistry called Rock Hudson, and Elizabeth Taylor starred with Rock Hudson in 1956's Giant, and remained lifelong friends until his death from AIDS in 1985. I just thought there's an interesting pop connection there that we now have an Elizabeth Taylor and a Rock Hudson song. And wouldn't it be incredible if Kelly Clarkson appeared? I don't think she will, sadly. Anyway, I digress. Opalite is a song that I'm not that interested in from the title alone. I've seen Swifties theorizing that the song is about Travis's eyes, but she's explored ocean blue eyes before on Gorgeous. So it wouldn't be very original for her to retread blue eyes as a theme for a song. Opalite, interestingly, is a synthetic material. So there's something to explore in that. It's not valuable or unique. It's just pretty from afar for the show. Father Figure is the one that I'm really itching to hear. George Michael is a legendary vocalist, composer, and producer that I feel doesn't get the credit or reverence that he deserves. Father Figure contains an interpolation of the 1988 hit George Michael song, not a sample. So what that means is it's being recorded by Taylor, so we won't be hearing George's voice or the original instrumentation. The lyrics of the original feel very Taylor-coded. Listen to this. That's all I wanted, something special, something sacred, in your eyes. That's all I wanted, but sometimes love can be mistaken for a crime. That's all I wanted, just to see my baby's blue-eyed shine. So Taylor-coded. It's more likely that we'll be hearing the chorus, which goes, I will be your father figure, put your tiny hand in mine. But I think the verses would fit so perfectly into the Taylor Swift lyrical canon, but I'm not expecting to hear them in the song. Our track 5 for this era is Eldest Daughter. So as you probably know, track 5 became the placement in album sequencing that Taylor would place the most emotional track on the record. Taylor is the eldest of her siblings, and she's the only daughter. It's likely that we should expect a song about family, responsibility, the quiet ways you end up carrying others. I doubt we'll get anything as heart-wrenching as Soon You'll Get Better, but only time will tell. Track 6 is Ruin the Friendship. The most demented theory doing the rounds online is that this one will be about Blake Lively. But with an active lawsuit underway, I highly doubt Taylor will be throwing a pop
Bangers
into the mix of proceedings. She's too savvy for that. A classic friends to lovers story is more likely. Think Ross and Rachel or Chandler and Monica. Aging myself again there. She and Travis weren't textbook friends to lovers. He set his intentions plainly up front. But you can picture a careless man's careful daughter taking things slowly at this point in her life, so perhaps they did form a friendship first, which developed over time. If that's the lens, then Ruin the Friendship is a dry way to describe saying yes to taking the risk. Actually, romantic is track 7. A lovely phrase because it captures being caught off guard by something as pleasant as romance. Coming in at 2 minutes and 43 seconds, though, is bound to be a tight, focused execution that hits and leaves a lasting glow. Track 8 is Wishlist. The S's are stylized as dollar signs, which suggests a triple meaning. Money as power, as a scorecard, as a long-kept wish. The last few years for Taylor have been very much focused on owning her own work and the journey that she had to go on to reclaim it. A Kesha cameo would make sense, and though it's unlikely, it's not entirely impossible. Track 9 is Wood, and I think this is the most opaque title on the record, and it's really one that I can't get a clean read on yet. I've seen the Natalie Wood theory, which would be a suitably dark direction, but it could just as easily be a literal nature, grain, something built, felled, or chipped away at, or a bit of a saucy innuendo, but I highly doubt that if Scott Swift had to leave the room for dress. I really just need to hear it before I pretend to know what's going on. Cancelled is our track 10. All caps and an exclamation point. It's giving gasp. This is where Max's presence gets really interesting for me. He was there throughout the era that produced the Kim and Kanye fallout, and Reputation was the artistic response. It's a topic that Taylor hasn't been able to leave alone since, to varying degrees of success. And while I don't hate Thank You, Amy, given their shared history of that period of time, I can imagine Max Martin perhaps wanting one last swing, not to relitigate it, but to turn it into a proper pop record with edge, pace, a little brat, hook first, and cathartic in the chorus. Let's write the perfect song about that chapter and close it once and for all. That's what I've got on my wish list. Next up is the penultimate track on the record, track 11, Honey. This could go one of two ways for me. The sweetness lineage, like Mariah or Robin, or the sassy direction, as in, don't call me honey. Given the new Heights dynamic and Travis casually calling her Swiftie, I don't hear a scold in this song. It's more likely to be a warm, syrupy, glossy, mid-tempo number about being seen by her honey. Feels closer to the target to me. But honestly, I don't need the I Love Travis songs. We got so much of that with Joe Alwyn, and it turned out she'd been lying to us all along. I'm not sure my cold, battered heart could take another round of deception from Taylor. And finally, we reach the album's climax, the title track, The Life of a Showgirl, featuring Sabrina Carpenter. Pretty smart casting. Sabrina's persona, the one she found legitimate success with, is reliant upon a very specific look. High gloss hair, 50s silhouettes, a stylized wink at old school femininity. It's effective, but very clearly a character she's stepped into and is now stuck in. Two women interrogating that usefulness and the cost of that commitment to the bit is very interesting to me. The costume you're forced to keep putting on because it works, and what it takes to finally take it off, which brings me back to my little Jerry Halliwell detour earlier on. The character on display was battling with the real person underneath, and there's only so long a situation like that remains tenable before one desperately needs to shake it off, pun intended. Of course, Taylor will handle it with more subtlety than Jerry, and Max will make sure it moves. What Sabrina has to add, we'll find out on Friday. Okay, so those are my thoughts and theories as the album is almost upon us. I've got my tickets for the launch party at the local AMC, and I'm sure it'll be me and 100 screaming schoolgirls, which won't be awkward at all. I'm planning on recording my first listen once the album arrives at midnight, and yes, 6 vinyl variants are apparently on their way to my house. So if anybody wants a vinyl, let me know in the comments. Regret would be a strong word, but not entirely inaccurate. While we wait with bated breath, tell me your deranged Showgirl thoughts and theories. Which title most grabs your attention and why? And what do you want Showgirl to sound like? Closer to Max's Reputation-style dark bangers or a 1989-style Summer Haze? What's the ideal blend? Let me know down below. And don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll catch you next time with more Taylor Swift takes.